What you want? What you want?
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's Week 2 Project Pate. We are high atop Jordan Hall, broadcasting from Studio 218. The dress is casual, the opinions are plentiful, and Greg Allen once again joins me to my right. Greg Allen, not a bad job last week, more of an expanded role this week. With that expanded role comes expanded responsibilities. Are you ready?
I think I am.
Okay. Week 4 college football in the book, so that's where we'll start this week. Brief recap, maybe some lasting impressions that you took away from Week 4 college football.
I want to start down in the SEC. Oxford, Mississippi, Georgia versus Ole Miss. Isaiah Crowell carrying the ball 30 times for 147 yards and really putting the load on his back and carrying that Georgia team to a big victory in the hot seat bowl.
It's important to note that is a freshman, Isaiah Crowell. From what high school?
Cava of Columbus.
All right. He is a freshman, correct?
Yes, he is.
And he carried the ball how many times?
30 times.
This is what conference?
The SEC.
And the SEC is the most brutal conference in college football, correct?
That'd be correct.
When you talk to people in Athens, is there any concern that that freshman tailback, especially carrying the ball 30 times a game, with no deep stable behind him, may wear down during this season?
He came out today in his Tuesday afternoon media session and said that he could have carried the ball more, but the coaches were throwing Richard Samuel in there and Carlton Thomas. He was a little winded, and he's had some bruised ribs, but he was fine to carry the ball more. And I like that. I like somebody that wants the ball in their hands, especially in a game with under that much, under a microscope like that, with two coaches on the hot seat, as they were saying.
How about this? How about out in Tempe, Arizona, if anyone even cared to pay attention? USC got throttled by Arizona State, and nobody even cared. It wasn't even a blip on the radar screen. How much does that tell you about how far USC's program has spiraled downward with the departure of Pete Carroll to the NFL? Insert Lane Kiffin.
Seems like maybe they ought to get Will Ferrell back out there at practice running the fire drill like he did that one time.
It's funny how Hollywood celebrities no longer on the sideline. There are whole open sections in the stadium. It's maybe fair weather fans out there in Los Angeles, maybe.
Are the Dodgers doing good right now? Is baseball season still in?
I don't know when baseball season ends. Brief recap, Alabama, just some spotlight games we had last week. Alabama throttled Arkansas, 38-14. Game in the second half, never really in question. Alabama holds Arkansas to 226 total yards. Tyler Wilson takes an absolute beating. What were your impressions, and what did you take away from that game?
Alabama's defense is fast, and they'll put a licking on you. They'll take that 15-yarder, but they're going to let the quarterback know that they're there and they're going to hit him every time. I like the way the defense shut down the receivers of Arkansas and just made them. I think they had 16 yards rushing. Yeah. And then, who could he throw the ball to? Nobody was open. And it seemed like every play he was getting hit and he was in the turf of Bryant-Denny. And I still think that Arkansas hasn't gone back and peeled him off the turf yet.
I think really what you notice with Alabama is a team that is gaining an identity more and more every week. That was a big test, and they face a huge road test, which we'll talk about a little bit later on this Saturday night at Florida. LSU rolls into Morgantown, and they wipe West Virginia off the field, 47-21. Greg's a lot's been made of the total yardage that West Virginia was able to pile up against LSU. If you look at LSU, and their defense, which is being acclaimed right now as maybe the best in the country along with Alabama, that's a coin flip. Does that total yardage concern you any?
If I'm an LSU fan, it does, but John Chavis does such a good job of bending but not breaking. And he's been known to do that in the past, even when he was at Tennessee. Bend but don't break. Hold him here. Get us a turnover here. Get us a turnover there. Hold him to 3 points. So I think under his scheme, they're doing what they have to do. And Geno Smith did rack up a lot of yardage for West Virginia, and West Virginia did exploit them in that. But in the end, it wasn't good enough to beat what I thought was a superior, better LSU team.
I think the scheme and the style of defense that you see played under John Chavis is very important, and it's a good point. There's not just one style of defense that works. There are different ways to win on the defensive side of the ball, and John Chavis has proven, in this conference he's proven. And so you'd like to see maybe your defense shut West Virginia down and hold them under 500 total yards, but the bottom line is, did it ever seem like West Virginia, after the ball was kicked off, had a legitimate shot to win that game?
maybe for the first 2 or 3 minutes when the fans were still, a little drunkard off some beer in the stands. But after that, no. I mean, it just seemed like LSU sucked the life right out of that stadium, and just creating chaos on defense. And Tyrann Mathieu is just a heck of a player for LSU on that side of the ball and on special teams. And, I thought coming into this year that losing Patrick Peterson on that side of the ball was going to create a void, and they would be able, opposing teams would be able to take advantage of the secondary. But, man, if they're just not a ton better, even with him out there and losing Patrick Peterson.
That speaks to the depth and the recruiting under Les Miles at LSU. And there are a few programs in the country that recruit like the Bayou Bengals do. Meanwhile, in Death Valley, the other Death Valley, Clemson, it's that time of year again, Greg. Clemson is emerging on the national radar. Normally it's just a blip and they're gone after a couple of weeks. But once again, they've won a couple of games, couple of close games that maybe they weren't supposed to, Auburn and Florida State. And now, as I said, it's that time of year again. They're going to be in the national spotlight. They're going to travel to Lane Stadium. This will kick off our feature games for this week, our highlight games. They're going to go play in Blacksburg. And they're going to play against a top 10 team in Virginia Tech. Clemson carries a 13 ranking into this game. It's going to be at night. This is an identity game. It's a program definer, especially for Clemson under Dabo Swinney. What do we see happening in this game?
They're going to go into a loud and ruckus environment in Lane Stadium.
Of what environment?
A ruckus.
Ruckus.
And
what about, can we insert raucous there instead?
No, it's ruckus.
Okay.
Ruckus. R-U.
All right.
I'm not sure, Clemson exploited Auburn in their defense. Auburn's defense is not the best in the nation. Not even the best in their own state. They're fourth in their own state, all right? But what you got to think about is Taj Boyd to Sammy Watkins has been a great quarterback to wide receiver passing game. I do think that Bud Foster in the defense will take Sammy Watkins out and make Boyd find other playmakers, and I'm not sure that Clemson has those playmakers. They also got to play a backup quarterback last week on their defensive side of the ball, and coming into this game, David Wilson has rushed, has had 3 100-yard rushing games, in the previous weeks. So I feel that Virginia Tech is going to exploit Clemson on defense. And it's a road game, a night game in Blacksburg, in Lane Stadium. I mean, emotions are going to be high for Virginia Tech.
Here's what happens every year. It's literally a script that you can set your watch to it. Clemson will win a couple of big games, and then they'll end up like a bug on a windshield when they really get pressed and put in the national spotlight. And that's probably what will happen in this game. You mentioned Bud Foster's defense at Virginia Tech. He, along with the other great defensive minds in the country, what they are famous for and what he's famous for is taking away your best option. You mentioned Sammy Watkins. You said he's been great. I can't remember how many times you said great.
Said it three times. He was great.
He's kind of burst onto the scene, but he has been featured now 2 weeks in a row. He had his breakout game against Auburn, and he broke Florida State's back last week.
And in 4 games, he has broke the freshman record at Clemson for touchdowns.
But the bottom line is the ACC, is by no means the greatest conference in the country. But if there is a program that has owned that conference, and more specifically, if there is someone with the identity of having a shutdown defense, specifically in the secondary, what program is that?
It's been Virginia Tech. The ACC title runs through Blacksburg and runs through Virginia Tech.
That's exactly, I think that's how it has to be stated. Until Clemson shows me personally, I'm picking against them. Now, Dabo Swinney's a nice guy, and I don't know so much if maybe I would want my coach to sound like he does in post-game interviews, but to each his own. What he's doing is working at Clemson, apparently, so we'll see. Maybe we'll be sitting here next week talking about how Clemson is the newest top 5 team in our power rankings, which we will debut a little bit later.
I'm just trying to figure out how in the world Clemson got Sammy Watkins from all these schools in Florida, Florida State, Miami, the University of Florida. I'm steadily trying to figure.
That's how you get them.
That's how you got me.
That's
too,
how
man.
you get them. Let's focus our attention now to Columbia, South Carolina. South Carolina, ranked number 10, they have not been overly impressive this year, but then again, they have not really been pushed this year after that game against Georgia. Auburn, on the other hand, has a myriad of issues on the offensive and especially defensive side of the ball. Auburn is a double-digit underdog on the road, defending national champions. They're going to play South Carolina. It's a 3:30 kickoff. What do we see happening here?
Yeah, I mean, is Auburn going to show up as a team? Their offense.
Well, how about what if they do show up as a team? Their team looks horrible.
Well, I mean, they need to do some major soul searching and figure out what their identity is, because last week, halftime it was 14-10 or 14-6 against FAU,
which it should be noted, probably the worst team in the country.
FAU on Auburn's defense last week got 62% of their offense, total offense for the year, in one game against Auburn. I think if Spurrier's smart, he tells Garcia, we're going to hand the ball off 85 times to Marcus Lattimore, maybe run some reverses to Alshon Jeffrey, Ace Sanders. You're not going to throw the ball, because he had 4 picks against Vandy. And Vandy was held under 100 yards last week by South Carolina. I look for South Carolina to dominate this game up front, get to Barrett Trotter, who hasn't been good, but he hasn't been horrible either. He's been steady. But can Auburn get the ball to Michael Dyer and get him open in space and create something? And because their defense sure ain't going to hold him. It's going to have to be a shootout if Auburn stands a chance to win.
How many points would Auburn have to score to win this game?
I'm going to say 70.
Okay. I'm just saying.
Their defense is going to give up. Their defense is going to give up a lot of points. And their secondary, and Alshon Jeffrey's a great receiver. And they have great receivers. You got to look at the man throwing them the ball, though. Hopefully he can get them the ball and expose Auburn in the secondary. I mean, and if not, if Garcia's having an off night, then, maybe you got to score, 21 to 30 points.
It's really just alarming statistics that the Auburn defense has put up thus far this year. Our spotlight game, Alabama travels to Florida. Greg, I think it's safe to say that this has signature game for both teams early in the season written all over it. It's going to be a night game. It's in the swamp. Alabama has already played a big game on the road against Penn State, but safe to say the athletes that they faced in Happy Valley will pale in comparison to what they face on the other side of the ball in Ben Hill Griffin this Saturday night. Give me a few keys to this game.
How is A.J. McCarron gonna handle being in the swamp? I mean, the swamp's an intimidating place. Florida's got a real good defense. They have athletes all over the field. That's something they're not even lacking, is on defense. They lost their number one defensive player, who got kicked off the team and is now at North Alabama with Terry Bowden,
which is turning into a powerhouse, by the way.
It is, and they're not missing a beat, But who has Florida played so far? I like the way their offense under Charlie Weiss has looked, but that they played Kentucky, Tennessee, and Justin Hunter got hurt against them, so there was no real vertical threat down the field once he went out in the first half. And they played UAB and Florida Atlantic. So, I mean, they really haven't seen a whole lot yet on an offensive side of the ball, and I think Alabama's going to bring that with A.J. McCarron and Trent Richardson.
You mentioned Richardson. Alabama has matched up great against Florida the past 2 years, admittedly under a different coaching regime at Florida. Will Muschamp comes in, probably equally to, if not more importantly, he brings Charlie Weiss in. And that's made a ton of difference in John Brantley, who has been and always will be a pro-style quarterback. The bottom line, though, you said that Florida does not lack talent, and I think you're correct. I think on the defensive side of the ball, they have as much talent, raw talent, as any team in the country. In the past, they've been statistically one of the greatest defenses in the country. Number one in 2009 before Alabama humbled them on national TV in the SEC championship game. The key to that happening has been Alabama being able to run right at them. Now, there have been questions on the offensive line for Alabama so far this year. I think last week, for the first time, as I said, you saw an identity start to be established for that Alabama team, but this will be a season definer. And every team and every program, if you're going to be a national championship caliber team, you need that signature win. And if Alabama is going to be one of those teams, this will be their signature moment, I think.
And Florida's got a tough road ahead. They got Alabama this week, LSU next week, and then I think they play Vandy, and they got an off week, and then Georgia. So, these next few weeks are going to be crucial for Florida and how they prepare and how quick they can rebound. Because I'm telling you this, Alabama is a brutal, physical football team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And then not to mention when McCarron hands off to number 3, nasty. Those linemen better get ready. And if the DB tries to wrap him up, he's just going to run right through him.
All right, quickly, let's go over our top 5 power rankings. We've had 4 weeks now to kind of observe and watch these teams. SEC obviously probably features, in my opinion, the 2 best teams in the country, but we'll see what you think. Top 5.
My top five, number one is LSU. They've got 3 proven road wins against Oregon, which was at a neutral site, Cowboy Stadium, Mississippi State, and then West Virginia this past weekend. You go on the road 3 times and you have 3 W's come out of it. Yeah. I mean, you're going to be number one in my book. Alabama's number 2. We talked a lot about them, physical. Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, defensive-minded. Jim McElwain on the offensive side of the ball. They're just overall, they're probably the second-best team. And November 5th is going to be the national title game. Oklahoma, number 3, Landry Jones, kind of a sleeper for the Heisman. You don't hear a lot about him. I feel that Landry Jones is probably one of the best quarterbacks in the nation behind Andrew Luck at Stanford. Number 4 is surprising, Oklahoma State. Coming back, big win at Kyle Field on the road against Texas A&M this past weekend. Mike Gundy kept it cool under the pressure, came back from a 20-3 deficit at halftime and handled the Aggies. He's 40. And my number 5 team would be Florida. Florida is surprising people. I like what Weiss is doing, using John Brantley in the pro-style offense and getting the ball to Demps and Rainey's speedsters, skill players out in space.
All right, my top 3 match yours, LSU, Alabama, Oklahoma, mainly for the reasons that you mentioned. And November 5th, obviously Armageddon in the SEC with LSU and Alabama facing off in Tuscaloosa. I'm going to put Florida at number 4. Now, you won't find Florida in the top 10 in any major poll. But, we're going off what we've seen so far this year. And so I'm going to put Florida number 4. The skill and talent is there. Obviously, big test this weekend. We'll see where the Gators stand, much like we'll see about Clemson a week from today. Georgia Tech is my number 5 team. Hear me out here. Hear me out. The triple option is the most difficult preparation in the country because nobody runs it. Georgia Tech just has the athletes to run it maybe at a different level, a higher level than your Navies and your Armies do. What Georgia Tech has not been able to do out of the triple option in years past, and since Paul Johnson's been there, is throw the football consistently. They're doing that now, and they're steamrolling people. You've got receivers with no defender within 30 yards of them when you watch Georgia Tech games, and it's a difficult preparation, but it's also what you've seen on film from Georgia Tech in the past is not what you're getting from them now. And I really don't think anybody in the country wants to play Georgia Tech right now.
I think teams are going to pick up on what they're doing, though, and make adjustments going in further along in the season. This weekend against North Carolina, they did a good job of exploiting that and taking advantage of it. But I just think teams are going to get and not load the box with 8 people.
Here's the thing about the triple option. It's one thing to know what they're doing, and it's another thing to stop what they're doing. And who in the ACC is going to stop it?
Well, I mean, Virginia Tech can. But, possibly. I mean, besides them, possibly Florida State, maybe.
I just think they're in the best possible position. Everyone's talking about Clemson, and everyone's been talking about Florida State and Virginia Tech. Nobody's talking about Georgia Tech. And to me, they've been as impressive, if not more impressive, than any team in that conference. But it's a huge weekend, probably maybe the biggest weekend of the season in terms of big games. We didn't even talk about Nebraska and Wisconsin.
It's Big Ten football.
Yeah, it's Big Ten. We're talking about real college football here. So, we'll meet back here a week from today. But Laura Ann Sills is away on business. So we're going to bring you back once again against my better judgment. Dano, our producer, really likes what he sees from you. So we're going to bring you back for another segment. So stick around if you don't have anything better to do. We'll be right back. And welcome back here at Project Pate. Once again, week 3 of September, and we're going to now welcome in our brand new, live from WTVM, fresh from WTVM, local flavor correspondent, Laura Ann Sills. Laura Ann, welcome to the set.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We will discuss with you every week topics pertinent to the local flavor. And with that, I'm going to now ask you to brief me on somewhat of a breaking story within the last week out of Ben Hill County, Georgia. Go.
It was very interesting, and it's interesting for anyone who has ever been a middle schooler. There was a food fight in a middle school cafeteria. It was about 8:30. Pancakes and sausages went flying. Now, about 20 of those students were arrested.
A pancake and sausage fest.
Yes.
Very interesting to note also the Frisbee action that one can get on a pancake, correct?
You're so right, but you can't use the syrup or it gets a little sticky.
Definitely not. Did I hear you say arrests?
They were arrested. Now, that was 20 of the students were arrested. They were detained by the police for disrupting their school. And, the waste of the food and that kind of thing, they were released back to their parents, but they were arrested.
Well, nutrition budget issues aside, is there precedent for arrests taking place, whether it be with tie wrap or handcuffs, for a food fight?
There is. They're told at the beginning of the school year not to disrupt their class. I'm sure since they've been in pre-K, they've been told at some point about food fights and the inappropriateness of that. So they have been, told that they need to behave and not disrupt or put anyone in danger that could have endangered a student had it started a riot or a fight. And so that is the precedent, the reason that they were detained. So
gang activity, just to wrap this story up, gang activity and school violence still rampant everywhere, but we do have food fights under control.
But food fights could lead to violence, so you have to look at it that way.
What kind of damage can a flying pancake do?
You know what, if it hits someone, if my pancake hit you, you got mad, you punched me, that could start a fight, it could hurt me. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't seen that scenario played out? Okay, we're going to transition here a little bit. This is unexpected for you, but we here at Project Pate came across a video within the last week, and we're now going to roll that, and I'm just going to simply ask you, if you will, to provide some commentary.
Okay,
roll the tape,
I'm a
Dano.
little nervous. Oh, no. Okay, let me tell you about
what's
this.
going on here?
I had just been in Fort Benning inside the building behind me for 2 hours. We were
just
talking
like the old
to
saying,
we were
cannot
talking
keep my
to
eyes
the
open.
generals there at
But they're
Fort Benning,
watery.
the commander generals.
We have bugs flying in the eye? What's happening?
No, it's not bugs. It's the sun. We had been in the building. It was pretty dark in there. We came out. I knew I had about 5 minutes to shoot a stand-up, which is myself on camera. And I mean, my eyes are watering. It hurt. It was the worst pain I've felt in a really long time. I mean, my eyes were on fire.
Obvious question. Why not just turn around?
Turn around where?
The other way.
Well, it was noon, so it was high noon. See, the sun was high in the sky, and so when
Yes.
it's coming down on all that cement, there is water. There are water troughs, and so everything is
Sounds
just
like you're filming in a
abounding. It just hurt. I
Okay.
can't explain it.
Second question. Have you ever heard of these? They're called sunglasses.
Yes, I actually had them with me that day, but it's not professional to wear sunglasses on the air.
Who told you that?
Well, my journalism professors and my boss.
Okay, let me explain to you something. They were brought up in a different era. Dano, are we on the air right now?
Yes.
We are on the air. Am I wearing sunglasses right
I'm
now?
pretty sure you're wearing sunglasses.
Is anybody giving me any kind of flack?
You probably wear your sunglasses at night as well, don't you?
Absolutely. Just keep these with you. Other than
Thank
that,
you so much.
what else is going on at WTVM these days?
Well, we just have lots of news. We have, we go through dry spells, and we just have had lots of news lately with a bank robbery.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase the question. I want gossip. What's going on at WTVM?
I don't know. We don't have time. We don't have time for that.
You told that-
Besides what you saw, the sun in my eyes, which we do love to put our bloopers on air, and we do that every now and again, but I don't have time to even talk to my colleagues.
Somebody has been sleeping with somebody. Somebody has been talking bad about somebody. Stop towing the company line. And next week, I want details.
You're probably not going to get them, Josh.
Can we talk bad about maybe people from other news organizations within the city?
No, we're not going to do that either.
Okay. Well, you have severely hamstringed me when it comes to content, but we will come up with something for you next week. Laura Ann, once again, thank you for joining us.
You know what? We'll have maybe a cinnamon roll fight for next week.
Also,
if we can't do pancakes and sausages, let's have a food fight with cinnamon rolls.
And we'll look into catering while we're at it, too.
Okay.
By the way, tell Kincaid thank you for this gorgeous weather we're having.
You know what? He's doing a great job predicting the weather, but also just, talking to Mother Nature and telling her what we want. This is, we're getting into the 70s. It's really nice. Great football weather.
Thanks for being here. Maggie Reese in just a second. And welcome back. Third and final segment today. High Top Studio 218, Project Pate. Now, folks, this would normally be the segment reserved for Maggie Reese to discuss various topics pertaining to pop culture. However, Maggie suffered today from a scheduling conflict. But that's no problem, because Maggie was wise enough and smart enough and, most importantly, nice enough to send us her proxy, her fill-in, if you will. So whenever Maggie is not here in the future, rest assured that we will have someone for this segment. And without further ado, I would like to introduce that someone now. Please welcome Maggie's proxy, Val. Welcome to the show, Val.
Hello, friends.
Val, how are things in the studio today? Maybe a little cold. Can we adjust the climate? Can we get you anything?
Just a tad bit cool in here. If I could get a Fresca and some Cool Ranch Doritos,
All
that
right.
would be lovely.
Dano, get on that for me if you will. Now, we're going to have to stick to the format. First off, Val, I would like to ask you about your hair, though. Who takes care of that for you?
I do. Pert Plus, shampoo, conditioner.
And maybe the eye care, the glasses?
Kenny over at American Eye Care.
I
He
would
takes care
also
of me.
probably guess that Coca-Cola is involved in some way, shape, or form in those glasses. Val, what we're going to do is we're going to stick to the same format that we would with Maggie, and we're going to first take a look at a YouTube clip that's been sent our way. And if you could, I just want to get your honest initial reaction on what we see. Is that okay?
That is perfectly fine with me.
All righty, let's take a look at it. Roll it, Dano. All right, Val, now what we see here is just a nice young lady, probably unaware that anyone besides her will ever view this.
What is she doing?
You will find out momentarily. Now, what we have here is maybe a vocal tryout.
Oh, she's breaking it down.
Well, talent comes in all ways, shapes, and forms, Val. You should know that.
Yes, it does.
Now, what she's going to have is what we in the business call a good old-fashioned accident. And I want you to watch this very closely.
Whoa!
And there that is. Val, your thoughts?
Oh, that poor girl. Oh, man. How?
Can you sing, Val?
Oh, yes, I can.
Go ahead and give us something. Maybe raindrops keep falling on my head.
Raindrops.
That's enough of that. Val, what do you, I'm a little interested in you. What do you do for
I
a
want
living?
to talk more about her. Is she okay?
I don't know. Read the comments when you get home.
What is that on?
It's on YouTube. Do you have internet, Val?
What is that?
Are you maybe not allowed to be on internet for legal reasons that we need to know about, Val?
Legal reasons.
What do you do for a living, Val?
Work at Kinda Care.
You work at a daycare.
Yes.
Hang out at the playground a lot.
Every now and then. Have to check for razor blades, things like that.
Val, what do you do in your free time?
Hop, skip, jump rope. I like to jump rope. Go to the circus.
You ever worked at the circus or maybe a carnival, Val?
Not a big fan of carnies, no.
Val, where do you live?
I wouldn't like to discuss that on air and tell you.
How do you know Maggie?
You don't want to know how I know Maggie.
Maybe romantically attached at any point in time?
Once or twice.
Once or twice. That's interesting.
Yes.
Anything else that you want to talk about today, Val?
Well, yes, but no, not on air. Maybe off air we can chit chat.
Okay. I've got to admit, Val, I am mildly terrified by you. I don't know what to make of you. I don't know if I want you back here.
Well, maybe you should get with Maggie and her scheduling conflicts.
Maybe I should. Maybe I should. I think, Dano, that's going to wrap us up from Studio 218 for this week. Thank you for tuning in to Project Pate. We will see you again next week where hopefully we will have our full cast of characters back. For Val, Dano, and the rest of the crew here, I'm Josh Pate, signing off.
Oh, we on there?
I'm just paused right now in general. Is the mustache maybe a religious thing?
What do you think? You
Well,
think anybody else would have a stash like this?
I think it's stuck in your hair. That's what I think.
No, this is real. It's just that poofy, like Snooki and her
No,
poof.
absolutely not. No, absolutely not. There's no way. There's no way. I cannot.
What you want?